We're back with number 3. Bang. We're back with video number 3. So this will be lesson number 2. Remember, yesterday was lesson number 1 about brotherhood. Today's going to be lesson number 2 that this series, remember, I'm saying all the lessons that I've learned so far and that I'm going to double down on to accomplish my future goals with them. Because that's how much I believe in them. So, well, before we get into that, chat, how do we like the beard? That's just another story. How do I like the beard, though? Coming in nice. Let me know what you think. All right, so lesson number 2. Do not fear. This one is huge. This one is so important. Do not fear. So, in another video, I explained how I'm a Christian. I found this really interesting when I found this out. In the Bible, it says, do not fear. It depends what version, but 63 to 67 times. It says, do not fear, do not fear, do not fear. It says it from the Old Testament all the way to the New Testament. The only thing it says to fear is God. So when I read that, I was like, whoa, okay, so what does that mean? Like why? Like, fear must have such power to it. Clearly, if you fear something, it becomes real. It becomes real. That's why the only thing it tells you to fear is God, because that's the only truth in life. That's the only thing that should be truly real no matter what. You can't debate that. So when I heard that, I'm like, okay, cool. First thing I always go to, okay, that's a cool theory. It's a cool idea. But what does that look like in my day-to-day? What does that look like in substance and practice? Like, how can I actually apply that? And so what I found, this book called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. That book is probably the best one I've ever read. That and Are the Deal by Donald Trump. That one was gas too. About Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill was probably the best book I've ever read. The book, the way it went, it was set up, or it was framed as an interview with just a normal man who wanted to become better, and then the devil. And in the book, the devil, what he did, he explained his tactics and the way he uses his demons to keep people unfulfilled, unhappy, not motivated, unhealthy, unsuccessful. The list goes on and on. And the biggest thing he said he does is fear. People will fear an imaginary result that will never happen. When we think of a new idea, what we tend to think of is the worst scenario or what's wrong with the idea. It's human nature. But what we have to realize, and what I did, is that even though that could happen, it could. I'm not blind to it. I'm not an oblivious or optimist or too optimistic to see a downside. I get it. But at the same time, from my experience, usually, honestly, never, the worst scenario never happens, ever. Anything, it's either something in the middle or the best scenario happens. But you can't even say what the best scenario is because we can't even think of it. That's how random this stuff works. So I'm like, okay, read that book. I was like, clearly fear is the worst possible feeling I could ever have. That's the worst mental state I could ever be in. So with everything I do, if that's in my mind, then I'm on the wrong track. Boom. So now I know. So whenever I have to make a decision about, hey, do I move across the world to pursue my dream, or do I stay comfortable in a great life I was living? Okay, well, if fear's out of the equation, then what's the answer? It's to follow my dream. It's with everything. If you think about, especially myself in the past, if there's a girl I wanted to go out with, okay, well, if I asked her, is she going to say no? I mean, that's the worst scenario. That, usually never happen. But you can apply that to any single situation where there's a risk to it. But that's why people say no risk, no reward. So risk on the other side of that is a reward. And failure is okay. I don't want you to think failure is not like good. Like failure isn't like, oh, I failed. Ha, Yes. You shouldn't think of it in the same category as winning. It's different. Fix this hair, bro. Ooh. So failure is good, but as long as you fail forwards, you shouldn't make the same mistake twice. That's where failure is good. So if you have that subconsciously in your head with the fact that you're not going to fear anything, I believe, and we're going to find out because we're in the month together. We're going to find this out together. I believe there's really nothing that can stop you from achieving anything that you want. And you got to remember too, there's a speech by Steve Jobs, the owner of Apple. He died, R.I.P. But in the video, he says that so everyone says hindsight's 20/20. The stars never align when you're in them. They only align when you look back at them. So what I take from that is there's a lot of lessons and trials, whatever I've been through. And I'm like, well, what was the point of that? Like, what was the point of that? That's because I don't know yet. It could come in 5 years. It could come in 10 years. But I do know everything I go through does happen for a reason, as long as I'm conscious of what happened and how I can better if that happens in the future. So that's the frame, and that's the mindset that I've taken into every single situation I've ever put myself in. Again, whether it's a social setting or whether it's a business setting or whether it's a lifestyle change, which I've had about 4 or 5 huge ones in the last 3 years. And that's number 2. That's lesson number 2. And I write that down every single day, not because I forget it, but because the more you remind yourself of something, the more you're going to be conscious when an opportunity arises that you could apply that in. So I literally write that down every single day. Do not fear, do not fear, do not fear, do not fear. And I actually write, I fear God. And then I write a couple more things down, and then I said, do not fear. So that's, I guess, one thing I could do that you could apply. But yeah, do not fear is number 2. And that's all I got for today. Tomorrow we got number 3. Going to be another banger. Again, anything you want to hear, anything you want to listen to, anything you guys want to see in Thailand, let me know. This channel won't just, be about stuff like this. I plan for it to be about everything. Eventually, me and Joey swinging off a rope on some boat in the middle of whatever ocean we're on. I don't even know. So again, that's all I got. I'm going to enjoy this Red Bull, this coffee flavored Red Bull before class in probably 10 minutes. And I'll see you tomorrow. Ho, 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 ho.